So my wife was experiencing some of the same symptoms I had in terms of almost kind of tingly lips, which I was having when I went on an entire day where I painted the entire clinic with its second coat of primer, especially some of those small rooms where they're not ventilated so well. And I'm sure that's a secondary effect of ingesting some of those fumes and that effect on our nervous system. And so she was asking, is there anything we can take? And sure enough, I mean, there's a few different things, but what we're thinking of doing is there something you can ingest orally that potentially your body's going to then absorb, hit your bloodstream, and bind to some of those toxins that are probably circulating in our bloodstream now to prevent some of the secondary harmful effects. So this here is diatomaceous earth. So you get it's this just fine looking white powder, and I mean it's just a mineral that comes from the earth. Originally what it was is it's the fossilized skeletons of phytoplankton. So these little plankton that are living in the ocean now. There's parts of the world that was all covered in ocean that has since receded, and what's left is these little fossilized skeletons which have been turned into this mineral. Really healthy mineral, which is about 85% silica. So what are the 5 big benefits of DE, or diatomaceous earth, for our pets? Well, first of all, I've discussed it in the past for use for fleas, especially fleas and ticks, but especially for fleas, natural flea control. So being this fine powder, it is still, believe it or not, somewhat abrasive, completely safe for ourselves, for our pets. So it's 100% natural pesticide. And the way it works by killing these little insects, in terms of killing the fleas, it actually, breaks down the outer coating of their shell, their protective shell, and they ultimately then lose moisture, dehydrate, and die. And it's something where I've sprinkled it just on my lettuce, for instance, in the spring, where the lettuce is just coming up and the slugs come out. They're eating my nice little green shoots. I'll sprinkle on diatomaceous earth because I know it's going to help kill those slugs, and then we can also ingest it, and it's super safe. So the first big thing, a natural flea, and it could be also tick control. So something, one where you can directly put it onto your pets, and then you just want to sort of lightly mist them, or you're just sprinkling this dust on. Can you imagine just sprinkling on this fine powder, which is somewhat going on our floor. Then you can just use something like a flea comb just to spread it through your dog, for instance, or in through your cat's fur. It's super safe, a really good natural flea and tick control. The second point is for environmental toxins, and in particular, I'm going to use it for the side effects of inhaling paint fumes. But it can also be, for instance, where your dog or your cat has gotten into something, they've ingested it, and it's into their blood system, and you're like, what else can I give them to help bind what's ever in their blood and help get this out of their system? So it could be this diatomaceous earth. And then there's a study, one of the review studies I was reading, they're using it for heavy metal toxicity in people. And it's been studied, so it's not just sort of a, airy-fairy, this may or may not work kind of thing. It definitely has its benefits. So in terms of, for a person, such as myself, they're recommending about a teaspoon. I'll show you that. They're saying about a teaspoon, which is here, of that in about a cup of water. So I'm just going to try it myself so you guys can see. Here's my little over my teaspoon. Here's my approximate cup of water. So here's my diatomaceous earth mixed with my cup of water. Let's just see what it tastes like down the hatch. A little chalky. There's not really much flavor to it. But if it's going to help get rid of paint fume toxins, bring it on. When we're looking at doses for our dogs, our cats, the ones I've looked at have been slightly higher. They're looking about a teaspoon for about an 80-pound dog. So it's about double the advised human dose. So if you dose that down accordingly, we're looking at about a quarter of a teaspoon for 20 pounds of body weight. So it's just a teeny little amount, right? So there's this little quarter teaspoon, and that would be for a 20-pound dog. The third big benefit, which I've also discussed diatomaceous earth for in the past, is for natural internal parasite control. So in particular, we'll have pet owners write in and they're asking, is there anything else I can give for worms? If I don't want to use conventional medication, I think my cat has tapeworms, for instance. Maybe my dog may have roundworms. And you could also consider diatomaceous earth. So once again, you're looking at a dose of about 1/4 teaspoon per 20 pounds of body weight. The fourth big benefit, which I think is in particular important to many of you dog owners out there that have dogs that may have tendencies to get tendon and in particular ligament injuries, such as ACL injuries. Some of these are bigger, medium to large breed, pretty active dogs, maybe pretty straight-legged on the rear, where their knee is not in the ideal position to not be injured, or else maybe they've got a family history of ACL injuries that have run genetically wise, running through their family. Then one of the specific minerals that can be beneficial to help strengthen those tendons is silica. And it just so happens that this diatomaceous earth here is about 85% silica. So it's a naturally occurring, pretty darn healthy mineral that actually have some pretty good, strong positive benefits. And they're saying it for tendon, ligaments, and even for bone strength. But in particular, I'm seeing it for protecting against ligament injury, especially with the number of dogs that are injuring their anterior cruciate ligaments. My fifth point is sort of almost a fifth and sixth point. The first big one I was reading about was for its use for people for skin diseases, period, but in particular they're talking about healthy hair. So we say, for instance, we got these dogs that have got excessive shedding, for instance, kind of this dry, brittle hair. One of the specific minerals that can be beneficial for a healthy hair coat is silica. Once again, you've got diatomaceous earth, so you're going to be giving that orally. And something like that dose once a day, there's an option. It's also being used topically for people. For instance, they'll use it as an exfoliator, put it on their skin to help get off those dead skin cells. So for instance, some of these guys have pretty sort of chronic scaly skin and you're trying to clean that skin a little bit better, there's an option. And the last big point, which is really sort of almost number 7, even though I said there's only going to be 5, is its use is helping our pets' immune systems. So diatomaceous earth is also used as a filter, for instance in water. We're trying to filter out some of the bacteria, some of the viruses that are present. Especially if you're looking at, pumping some of the countries where you don't have ideal water treatment systems and where some of these diseases are more prevalent. They're actually using filters with diatomaceous earth. And what they're finding is it's even more effective is filtering some of these viruses. So one of the thought is, in part of it, it's not just filtering. I mean, in particular, this is actually binding and preventing these viruses from getting into our system. The thought is maybe they'd also be beneficial if we've got something going on in our dogs and our cats and we want to actually help their immune system in that way. So say you've got a cat, for instance, that gets recurring bouts of the cat flu. That's something else I'd wonder about using. And if you're going to dose it at a cat, you're looking about 1/8 teaspoon, so it's just a little teeny bit. You'd want to try to mix it into some of their canned food, for instance. Thank you guys once again for watching. This is Dr. Andrew Jones. Here's to the diatomaceous earth.